So what was your biggest takeaway from the Clippers saying no deal?
Well, look, I mean, we knew they didn't want to give up Terrence Mann. I mean, ever since Harden said he wanted to go there was talk that, oh, Mann's not going to be on the board. But I think they should. I really do. Terrence Mann, I like him. He's a good defensive player. He's tough. He's hard-nosed. He's a role player, though. He averaged 9 points a game last year.
He's 27.
Yeah,
he's not,
right. That's the thing. He's not 23.
Young guy.
He's a second-round draft pick.
Yeah, from 5 years ago.
Yes. So they should give up Mann. And look, do I think James Harden is going to go to the Clippers and change their fortunes? No. This would be their starting lineup, presumably. It's star-studded. I will give you that. James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Ivica Zubac. I love Zubac.
It's not bad.
It would be must-see TV for that first few weeks, and it would be drama-filled and all that. And look, they want Harden because they know Kawhi is going to go down. Or even if he doesn't, they just got to – he's one player I don't mind being load managed because I think he needs it.
But
I don't think he could survive.
You just said something there, Brew, that I just want to ask you if you're sure about. You said they want Harden.
Well, you're right.
Do they?
That's fair.
To do what Kevin Wildes, do they?
That's fair. I mean, if they won't give up Terrence Mann, that's
right.
very
So
fair.
that's the thing. So this isn't so much about Terrence Mann because nobody really cares that much about Terrence Mann outside of diehard Clipper fans. But that's why. This is news. Here's who he is as a player. Terrence Mann last year, which was similar in line with the year before. He's 23 minutes, 9 points in the playoffs. That bounced up to 10. If you're like, I kind of remember the name, it's because in the Jazz meltdown in the playoffs a few years ago when Gobert couldn't guard anyone, he went crazy. But that's it.
And that seems to be what the Clippers are still holding on to.
To me, this should be a wake-up call for James Harden. Right now, I went through all the NBA top 100 lists that have come out. 100, top 100. Again, only 450 guys really in the league for this coming season. Mm-hmm. You know whose name's not on there? On any of them? Terrence Mann.
I was going to say.
You know who is? Grant Williams, Mitchell Robinson, Emmanuel Quickley, Jonas Valanciunas. All those guys made some of these lists. James Harden, you would be a Clipper today. It would be done. This was tried to be consummated on Monday. Then the Clippers said no Terrence Mann. Daryl said, okay, then you're not being serious. Talks fell apart, and now Harden's throwing a temper tantrum. That's the timeline of this. But the Los Angeles Clippers, who are in a critical year for their franchise because Kawhi is a pending free agent, Paul George is a pending free agent. They have a new arena opening up a year from now. Their owner built with his own money in Inglewood. All these things. They had the opportunity. We can replace Terrence Mann, a ninth grader to be named later, and a pick swap for James Harden. And Lawrence Frank said, not worth it. If that is not, for James Harden, a sobering moment, then there isn't going to be one.
Well, let me try. And I hope James is watching because he's sitting in Houston. He's not practicing with the Sixers, all right? James, when Allen Iverson was roughly 34 years old, when Carmelo Anthony was roughly 34 years old, if not exactly both of those guys, both top 75 games players just like you, they were out of the league prematurely because they wouldn't accept who they are at this point in their careers.
Yeah.
Okay? Iverson could have been a Jamal Crawford or Lou Williams off the bench, as far as I'm concerned, for the next 3 more years after he was gone. Melo obviously came back and played well off the bench once he was humbled. Okay? This could be James Harden his last season in the league if he doesn't straighten up and fly right. And I'm saying that because the teams with cap room next year are San Antonio, Orlando, Detroit. They're all young. Charlotte. They're not going to want James Harden. It makes no sense for them to go after James Harden, which is why Houston didn't go after James Harden. Okay? And so all the teams he would want to go to or teams that would even be interested in him, he's not going to make much money. They could pay him $12 million, $7 million, $5 million, maybe even less than that, like Westbrook's hitting $3 million. Okay? So James Harden has to understand he is rubbing teams the wrong way with his attitude. The Clippers know he wants to go there. He's from LA, but also because he wants them to give him a long-term, big money deal next summer. And they won't.
And so here's the other part of this. James Harden has won his battle with Daryl Morey, and he can't cash in on it. Here's what I mean. When Harden demanded the trade, Daryl was very clear, like, okay, I'm not going to trade him unless we either are getting a player his caliber back or the assets to get one because we're championship contending. It was so clear across the league that didn't exist. Daryl was going to essentially fold his hand, be like, okay, one pick, one swap, and the roughly 164th best player in the league.
Off the bench.
And you know what they think they can do with the assets from the Clippers is flip it for
but still,
what they have for
but
an
it's not
all-star
so
caliber
much.
player.
It's not
guaranteed. No.
Not at all. And the Clippers said no, which means I understand James right now is very mad at Philly. You know what he needs to be mad at? This full screen I'm about to put up, which is why, in addition to quitting on 3 straight teams, which is why the league ain't on it. Last year, he had 2 awesome playoff games. Here's the rest of his playoff games from last season, all of them, not just the Celtics series, rounds 1 and rounds 2. We removed 2 games. 15 points on 30% from the field.
Not great.
And so when you are at this moment where you opted, this is the other part of it. Because I know that, we've had KD's demanded trades and AD and Dame, all these things. We have never seen this. Even Kyrie, when Kyrie opted in to the last year with Brooklyn, then said, okay, I'm going to, you know what? I'm happy to be here. And that lasted at least a few months before he then demanded a trade. Harden started this process the day he opted into his deal. If he hated Philadelphia so much, he was a free agent this offseason if he wanted to be. But as
you know why
we thought he was promised.
He couldn't have got the money.
That's the point I'm making.
He couldn't have got the
He could have been a free agent this offseason, and his agent told him, don't be one because no one's going to pay you.
All right, so here's
now the Clippers don't want to trade Terrence Mann.
All right, so the other elephant in the room is a week from now, the Philadelphia 76ers are in Milwaukee, and Joel Embiid will have his MVP trophy and be like, that guy's MVP also on the other bench. He made one comment about being unhappy and maybe going somewhere else, and all of a sudden, Dame Lillard is on his team. Me, Joel Embiid, I've seen Jimmy Butler come and go. I've seen Ben Simmons be a total debacle. I'm in another of a total debacle. And I feel like I'm wasting my time when I see Joker winning the championship and I see Embiid now with Dame. So what do the Sixers
And by the way,
do?
Anthony Davis get his way to LeBron and win a championship.
True.
All the 7-foot, MVP caliber guys, they're all winning titles or in that conversation except for Embiid.
So now what happens? What happens to the Sixers? What should Embiid do?
Well, look, first of all, let me say this about the Sixers. If James Harden doesn't play, I think he's going to show up. Because if he doesn't show up, he's going to keep getting fined. And depending on how long he would stay out.
That's not going to work.
No, my point is this. His contract, if he doesn't show up at some point, his contract could toll and he won't be a free agent next year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he is going to show up at some point fairly soon. If I'm the Sixers, I said yesterday, Nick Nurse needs to find out, are you going to give us your all? If not, then I think they can try to suspend him for insubordination, maybe. I don't think that'll work. But if that if you can do that, send him away from the team because his attitude will bring the team down. I also think this, Nick. They can go just as far without James Harden as they could go with him. You showed the playoff. No, I think second round is their ceiling with or without Harden because we know he doesn't get it done in the playoffs. Yeah. And their regular season record won't be as good without Harden. But Tyrese Maxey is your second option. Tobias Harris is your third.
No,
they'll be a good playoff team.
They've built out a fine team, but in order for them, and here's the thing though. In order for them to compete for championships, one of two things needs to happen. One is Joel Embiid needs to level up in a way that I don't think at this point is realistic. That might be unfair. Like, he just won. No, I don't. When I say
realistic.
Yeah,
Like Giannis in the finals.
Yes, that level up. I mean, I know he just won league MVP,
okay.
but I'm saying with this roster, this roster to make the finals, he would have to go on an all-time run, or for them to get another great player, which they don't have right now the ability to do, which is why I think that this is, much like I said the day the Mavs traded for Kyrie, that I was like, when Luka leaves, we'll say this was, one of those dominoes.